Good afternoon, good evening. I'm attorney Alma Rosa Nieto. Welcome to our live broadcast, which you can see on YouTube, Twitter, Noticiero Telemundo, on their app. And please follow us, and also please share this information. I know that many that are watching are Spanish speaking, but many also are English speaking. So this is again with the intention of giving information about immigration laws to everyone that may need it. So please share this information. And I'd like to give one legal disclaimer to start, and then I'm going with my topic. First one is, the discussion in response to your questions is not a legal consultation, and it does not establish an attorney-client relationship. It is information for public education regarding general subjects of your question, and it is not meant as legal advice for your own particular situation. With the legalese out, I'm ready to start with our topic and, of course, take your questions and give answers, and then we'll go through the half hour, just Q&A. So please start preparing your questions. We'll be taking a lot of those today. Well, there's an ICE memo that it's not new. It was published and it came out in February of 2017. President Trump made an executive order in January. Then a month later, an ICE memo came out that basically leaked, and I don't know when it leaked, but it appears that it leaked recently, and it basically contradicts what the president said were priorities for enforcement, which are people that are dangerous to the national interest and security, people that can be dangerous to the public, and basically those were the priorities. But this ICE memo that was discovered recently basically says that everyone is a target for deportation that is out of status or has no status. So if ICE were visiting someone's home to look for a particular person that maybe had a deportation order and it was outstanding, and they knock on the door and that person's not there, but somebody else answers, now under this new ICE memo, ICE can ask that person, who are you? Show me your documentation. You have none. You're going with us, even though you're not the person we were looking for. Somebody maybe has a charge of some kind of criminal activity, even though he or she may not have been convicted. He was detained, questioned, and there's a charge by the prosecution. They don't have to be charged. They don't have to be convicted by a judge. The mere fact that they're charged with a crime makes them a target for ICE detention and an ICE hold. So these are serious concerns now for the immigrant community, that anybody and everybody is a target for deportation. So my advice is obviously always seek immigration advice. It's very sad for me when I'm counseling people in my private practice to see that many people have a way of immigrating or have had a way to immigrate for many years, and just because they didn't know, they didn't have the information, they never sought real legal counsel. They go maybe to a free clinic, which they have great intentions, but they don't have the time to delve in and ask you a lot of questions that could sometimes trigger a strategy for an attorney to say, oh, maybe you can do this or you can do the other. So I strongly recommend you seek legal advice in your particular case to see if maybe there's an option and an alternative. Please don't be your own lawyer. They say there's no worse doctor than the doctor that wants to operate on himself. Same thing. There's no worse lawyer than a lawyer that's counseling himself. And in this case, many people that counsel themselves out of legal relief aren't even lawyers. So you're just hearing things in the street, friends, neighbors that are saying, no, you can't do it, or yes, you can. Seek legal advice, because now this ICE memo unfortunately prioritizes everyone that's out of status in the United States. And a single mother with 4 children born all in the United States, maybe 20 years in the United States, but out of status, is now a target along with a felon and a murderer. So that's the state of affairs right now. And this is the memo that ICE is following. And it's frightening, and my duty here is to let you know it exists so that hopefully you can go out and seek legal advice and try to somehow find a cushion in your particular case of some kind of relief. It may be long-term, it may be something that can be done very quickly, but at least you're starting something, and it makes you feel more empowered to know that you have something going, something started with immigration, and that eventually you'll get a green card. So again, seek legal advice. If you don't know where to find a lawyer, there's a nonprofit organization nationally. It's called AILA, AILA.org. You can find a lawyer in your area and seek advice for any kind of immigration issue in your particular area, AILA.org. Very well, let's start with questions because I'm sure there are lots of them.
Thank you so much. And the first question is from Linda. How long would it take for my mom to petition my sister that lives in Tijuana and she is a widow? My mom is currently 75 years old.
Very well. It doesn't tell me if the mother's a U.S. citizen or a resident, but again, I'm going to answer it both ways because I know it's hard to get your question selected, and I don't want you to say, oh, darn, I didn't tell you my mother was a green card holder or a citizen and I didn't get my question answered. So I'm going to answer it both ways. So a mother that's a resident that's trying to immigrate a daughter who is single, she's a widow, but she's single, and an adult, of course, from Mexico for a resident, a permanent resident, they're in 1996. That means that cases that were filed, this is awful news, cases that were filed in 1996 are being called for a green card now in 2017. So what does that make it? 21 years wait if a mother is a green card holder and wants to immigrate a child that is single, divorced, or widowed. Now, if that same mother is a United States citizen and is petitioning for that same daughter from Mexico, the wait is also 1996, just a few months difference. So in the past, people would say, oh, why don't you naturalize, become a citizen if you're a resident? It'll help your case. Not in this particular situation. In some cases it will, but not from a mother to an adult daughter. So the wait is 21 years, folks, and that is not always accurate because the wait sometimes is longer, sometimes it's shorter. It's an approximation.
All right, and I also wanted to remind our users that we will be using their first name going forward for privacy reasons. So if you guys can pay attention to make sure we answer your questions. This one is from Jessica. I'm in the process of an I-485 since December of 2015. How long would it take to get the green card?
That is a long time. An I-485, that's an application that is to get a green card. And a couple weeks ago, I think I showed it to you and I kind of fanned it out to show you how thick it is now. It's going to be modified in a few months and it's going to be 3 or 4 times the length of the application. But that's to get a green card within the United States. And it normally takes 6 months. This is over a year and something and change. Why it's taking so long is alarming to me. If you have a lawyer, you should seek an appointment with your lawyer and say, why is it taking so long? Can you please file an inquiry by email, go in person through InfoPass, write a letter, but make sure that you are inquiring what the holdup is because it doesn't take this long. So maybe they requested more evidence. Maybe it's a type of case where there's a quota and you have to wait a certain amount of time. Or, oh, I know what may have happened. When I go into my thinking cap, I go back and I realize that now the visa bulletin, this is a bulletin that comes out every month. It's issued by the State Department, not by immigration, by the State Department of the United States. And it basically tells immigration and people and lawyers whose turn it is next to immigrate. Well, now there are 2 calendars. One that says this is when you can file your application, but you have to wait your turn. And this is when they're going to give you a green card because there's a wait. So now the benefit is you can file your application, like in this case, a whole year before it's your turn. You get the benefit of getting a work permit and your case is inside immigration, but you still have to wait your turn to get a green card. So I'm assuming that's what's happening in your particular case. But you should seek your counsel with your lawyer to make sure and check and see the priority dates, and he or she will tell you how close you're getting or if it's already passed, so you can file an inquiry directly with immigration.
Ninoska. What happens if we don't have documents and have a deportation letter from years ago and we want to travel within the United States? It would be a local flight. Is it dangerous to do so?
Yes, Minoska, and I don't know what country you are, and I love hearing from people from all over the world contacting us in English. Thank you. Thank you for your trust, your confidence, and all of those of you that are spreading the word too. Unfortunately, if you have an outstanding order of deportation, you are like high priority target for these ICE enforcements. So they're probably looking for you, and I hope they don't have your current address because that's where they first start, is going the last address they had. Now you want to travel. TSA is probably not going to tell on you. My concern is that there's ICE presence at the airports. So if they were, because I just talked about this ICE memo at the start of this section, this program, this broadcast today, and now everyone's a target. I could be at the airport waiting with my bag and ICE can come up and question me and ask, and if I was out of status or have an outstanding order of deportation, bingo, ICE can take me in and deport me. So my concern is that you're getting too close for comfort for me to being detected. Now, there are many people that come and go in airports and have no problem. But again, if you have an outstanding order of deportation, I would be laying very low and not exposing myself where ICE could question me.
Anna, will a DUI have any type of repercussion if I'm trying to obtain my citizenship? It was dismissed about 7 years ago, but I'm now trying to get my citizenship.
Okay. I need to know if it was a misdemeanor, a felony, and dismissed is always, people always use that word, dismissed, and many times it wasn't. Many times they were convicted and 7 years have passed and now you've complied with all your probation, you've complied with all the punishment that the judge may have given you, you've paid your fine, your probation is terminated, and if they give you 3 years, 5 years, it's over. However, dismissed really means that a judge said, you who are before me with a DUI are innocent. I'm dismissing the case. We don't have enough evidence, or the evidence is faulty. We're going to throw this case out. So if it was in fact dismissed and you were innocent, the judge said, bye-bye, you're innocent, go away. Of course it won't affect you for citizenship. You don't have a conviction. However, if it was dismissed because you later went and did an expungement, you vacated, you did something post-conviction relief, that's another thing. So it's very complicated, but I would take it to an immigration lawyer and take the criminal document that the judge gave you, which is the sentence, so that a lawyer can decide if that will affect you or not for citizenship. It shouldn't, because it's more than 5 years, and they like to see that from the date you're applying for citizenship 5 years earlier, you have a clean record. Now, again, I don't know if you hit someone, if you caused an accident, if people were injured, if you hit public property, if you sped and took off and then the police found you later, like hit and run. So all of those factors enhance a crime or lessen it. So again, get the document. It's called a conviction document or a docket sheet. Get a certified copy of it, because immigration is going to ask you for it for citizenship. Go see a lawyer so that the lawyer can tell you. I always like to categorize my cases: red light, yellow light, green light. Red light, don't even file citizenship. You could even lose your green card. Green light, it's clean, go for it. You have a really good chance of getting citizenship. Yellow light, there's some issues. They won't take your green card away, but you might lose all the money from filing fees for immigration and what you paid the lawyer, but you might want to try, and you give the client the options and what the risks are and what the benefits are of trying. So in your case, please get that document, take it to the lawyer, and get an analysis before filing for citizenship.
Vivi, I came to this country in 2004. My parents brought me here illegally. I'm now 23 and got married to an American citizen it's been 3 years. We also have 3 children that are citizens as well. Am I able to fix my legal status? And what would be the steps I need to take?
Of course you can. You're married to a United States citizen and he can petition for you. Now, you did say your parents brought you here undocumented, so most likely is you'll have to go back home to get your green card. Not now, at the end. So however long the case takes, it could take a year or 2, you're still here in the United States processing this application and most likely a waiver. You didn't tell me if you applied for DACA, which is what dreamers have applied for, youngsters that came before they were 16, and they have to have good conduct, and they have to have been here a certain amount of time. And it sounds like you would be eligible, but I don't know exactly what year you came in. So if you're eligible for DACA, there's a little trick that many lawyers are performing, which is use your DACA to go back home with an emergency. You get an advance parole from immigration. They'll give you a permit to leave the U.S., go back home for whatever your emergency is, come back legally, and now your husband, who's a United States citizen, can apply for you here in the U.S. It's called an adjustment of status. It only takes 6 months, and you don't have to go back home. You don't have to go to the American Embassy abroad. You don't have to ask for a waiver. It's a simple process. It's less expensive and less risky.
Franklin, I married an American citizen, but I came here with a D1 visa. Can I wait for my paperwork here, or do I have to leave the country?
A D1. I don't know exactly what a D1 is. I don't have my list and I can't get on my phone right now to check it. But there's certain visas, there's many, it goes more than ABC, it's dozens of letters. But there's one that's for crew members. So if you have to check your visa and you know how you came, why they gave it to you. If it's for crew work, like on a ship, unfortunately, those don't shift into an adjustment of status and you can't get a green card within the U.S. You'd have to travel outside. But if a D, and you know what it's for, you know what purpose you got it for, if it was for any other reason that is not like for crew, most likely you can use that visa as a legal entry and you can adjust status in the United States. So I would get the visa, I'd get the I-94 little carton that they staple at the airport, seek legal counsel, show it to them, take your marriage certificate to your spouse in with an immigration lawyer so that they can check, because even some visas have a letter and then there's 1, 2, 3, and certain numbers within that letter allow you to adjust and others don't. So I'd have to have a visual of the visa and then of course look at that particular visa to let you know if you could immigrate here or you're going to have to go back home to immigrate in your home country.
Thank you so much. And the next question is from Yahaira. My sister is a resident and wants to petition for me. How long would it take? I'm currently single, I'm 25 years old, and have a tourist visa.
I'm glad she's a resident, but she cannot petition for you. A U.S. citizen can petition for a brother or sister. So I don't know how long your sister has been a green card holder, but if she's been more than 3 years, if she got it through marriage to a U.S. citizen, or more than 5 years if she got it through any other means, she can now become a U.S. citizen. And once she gets her U.S. citizenship, she can apply for a green card for you. Now, you don't tell me what country you're from, so to tell you how long it would take, but let me give you the most important categories. For Mexico, from sibling to sibling, it's 20 years. For the rest of Latin America, Canada, Europe, many countries in Asia, with the exception of China and the Philippines, the wait is 2004, which means that it would be, 13 years wait, a little bit less, but it's lengthy. But again, your sister must be a U.S. citizen, not a mere green card holder.
Elmer. I'm 34 years old and single. My dad is a citizen. How long does it take for me to get my residency?
What country are you from? But I'll give you both again. The big, I call it the world category, and Mexico. And this bulletin is divided into world, China, India, Mexico, and the Philippines. So most people, I think, would fall into either Mexico or world. So your father is a United States citizen and you want to immigrate through him. If you are single, the wait is 2010 for world. That means 7 years for Canada, Central America, South America, Asia, Europe, Africa. Now, if you are from Mexico and your father's a United States citizen, 21 years. Mexico's very backlogged.
Liz would like to know the following. I heard about Texas along with 9 other states who warned the administration about ending the DACA program. Have you heard of something regarding that?
Yes, I did. And last Thursday in the Spanish version of this broadcast, which is on Thursday nights, we talked about that topic, and I'll be happy to develop it just a little bit more here since we missed last Tuesday. The topic is that Texas is the leader, and they got 9 other states to join them, and they're threatening to sue the administration and the president if he does not eliminate and stop DACA for Dreamers, the program that Mr. Obama, former President Obama, installed in 2012 and has lasted up to date now. Basically, they're saying let it lapse. In September of 2017, do not renew the work permits anymore and don't accept any new applications or renewal applications. So that's their goal, their drive for these 10 states. Now, the Secretary of Homeland Security is saying, Congress, you need to do something. If DACA ends, it's up to Congress to change the laws, and he's putting pressure on Congress to come up with something. And they've come up with a couple of acts. I talked about the Bridge Act earlier, and now there's another one that came up about 2-3 months ago, where they're trying to give these young people that came here, many as babies, and they've known no other country but this country, and they've been good citizens, they've gone to college, they have good jobs, and they have clean records, and some of them have applied for DACA, some of them haven't, and they're saying you need to fix this program, this problem, because if the program DACA is extinct or it's terminated, what's going to happen with all of these young folks that applied or many that didn't and are eligible? So we're going to be on standby to see what Congress does with these two acts and see if any of them go anywhere. But yes, it is true. I don't want to alarm dreamers, but it's, again, very important to know. I always say in Spanish, I have a little logo, and in English it goes well, knowledge is power. So by you knowing that this is happening, perhaps some of you are dating for 5 years a United States citizen, and you might want to have that conversation. Honey, guess what? Texas and 9 other states may want to end this program, and I may have to leave this country. What do we do? Are we going to take this relationship to the next step and get married for love? And this might solve my problem. So these are conversations that have to be had because you need to know what's going on and what states are doing. And unfortunately, it's not pretty, it's not positive, and it's very anti-immigrant.
Jaime, if I have to go back to Guatemala for my visa, how long will I have to stay there, and how likely am I to be approved? I have an I-130, I'm married to a U.S. citizen, we've been together for 5 years and have an 8-year-old child as well.
Good. Well, I would say that lawyers have percentages, different, success rates of cases. Some lawyers will take all cases because they just want to make a buck. And so they win 50% of their cases. Other lawyers, I tend to be very selective. I don't want to send any of my clients to their home country to take a chance. It has to be a very calculated chance and a very high percentage of probabilities that they'll get a green card. But if your lawyer is an honest lawyer and he's ethical or she's ethical, they'll tell you your case is clean, go with confidence, go without fear. Make sure your lawyer prepares you for the interview. I have seen so many clients come to me because their wife is stuck back home in their country, went to their interview, or their husband stuck back home, and the citizens in the U.S. calling me desperately. They're denying her or him. He's going to be there for years. What do we do? And the first thing I ask is, did your lawyer prepare you for the interview? You have to be prepared for an hour or more with your lawyer on what's going to happen at the embassy, what they're going to ask you, what documents they're going to say, how to answer questions, what do you want to volunteer, what do you want to just not lie, but withhold until asked to improve your chances of getting a green card at a U.S. embassy around the world. So make sure that your lawyer prepares you for that interview. I call it a mock interview. And I've sent so many thousands of people around the world that I know pretty much a lot what goes on at the embassy and what they can ask you. So in your case, you don't tell me much about you, if you've ever had any crimes, any contact with immigration. If you have tattoos on your body, that is now a new ground of inadmissibility. If any of those tattoos resemble gang membership tattoos, they can use that and say, oh, you're affiliated with a gang, denied. Or they ask you at the doctor, which is affiliated with the U.S. Embassy, have you ever smoked marijuana? Have you ever taken any drugs? Have you ever, how much alcohol do you take? And you're, oh, I better say the truth. And you start saying, oh, this weekend I had a whole bottle of tequila. Then they're going to say, oh, alcoholic. And then when you get to the embassy, everything else in your case was perfect, but because you weren't prepared for that interview, you said too much, and now they're labeling you as an alcoholic, even though it was a one-time thing that you drank that. Now the consul can say, I'm going to deny you because you're inadmissible on one ground under the Immigration and Nationality Act. So how lucky or how the possibilities in your particular case, that's something you should ask your lawyer before you go. And if your lawyer says there's something wrong with your case, please postpone your interview. It's an interview like any interview, a doctor interview, a dentist interview, an interview with any kind of business affair. You can always say, I can't come, I want a new one. They'll give you a new one so that you're better prepared and you make sure you go. Now, how long? This long turnaround to answer. Most people for Central America go for 2 weeks if everything goes well. But if you want an analysis of how good your chances are, go back to your lawyer and say, I want you to review everything and tell me, are there any risks?
The following question is from Efren. I have an appointment tomorrow with ICE for deportation. I have an I-130 granted based on my wife. who petitioned me, and she's a citizen. I have a voluntary departure in 2013. What is my chance to stay here?
Under the Obama administration, I would have said 100% chances you're going to stay here because they're not going to want to deport someone that's already filing for a green card that's going to leave shortly thereafter, and they're going to be able to do two things: comply with a voluntary departure and go get your green card abroad. Under this administration, I hate to tell you, it's a very high risk that they may detain you. It's a high risk that they may also say, well, we're not going to detain you this time, but next month when you come again, we'll detain you. So the risks are very high. If you have a lawyer that's either representing you with ICE, he or she should go with you. If you have an attorney that's helping you out with the case through your wife, you should advise him or her that you have that ICE appointment, and maybe that person will go with you. Because what the lawyer wants to know is if you're detained, that you will be sent away quickly and you're not going to be in a cell in a detention center for months. And then the case that you're also trying to handle through your wife might come to conclusion and you can't go to your interview because you're detained. So a lawyer wants to know everything that's going on with both cases, the one through your wife and the one through ICE. Best of luck.
Jonathan, can someone with DACA be a target for deportation if that person travels within the United States with an expired employment authorization card?
Yes and no. If your card is expired, remember they have a life of 2 years, but you've already filed for your DACA renewal and you have a receipt back from immigration, then you can show that you're still in status, and the likelihood of you having any problem is very, very slim. We did hear some noted cases. There was one woman that was, she was actively manifesting her opinion in a public rally, and she was out of status. Her DACA had expired a few months before, and she was detained, not in an airport, at the rally. So yeah, you're technically out of status, but if you can prove that you've already renewed your status, remember, for airport travel, they're not going to ask you for your work authorization. They're going to ask you for some kind of ID, like a passport that's valid from your home country or your driver's license from the state in which you live. So I doubt that they're even going to look at that work authorization that is expired.
All right, and this is the last question from Janetta. My husband and I have custody of my stepson. We want to file for me to be able to adopt him. He's here with a green card. How can we proceed with filing for adoption?
Okay, every state in the United States has different laws for adoption, just like for criminal law. So every one of the 50 states has different laws. So the first thing I would do is go get a family lawyer. Usually lawyers that do divorces, because it's family law, also do adoptions or may refer you to an adoption attorney so that they can look at the particulars of your case, and the fact that the child is a resident will not in any way impede you from adopting the child. So I think that that wouldn't matter once you adopt them. And if you're both citizens, there may be, and if one of you is just a green card holder and later turns into a citizen, the child will derive citizenship through one of you because you've adopted the child. So seek a family law lawyer in your state. You can go, let's just assume you're from North Carolina. You would put statebarofnorthcarolina.com or .org. And then once you get to that page, that's the Bar Association. That's who regulates us lawyers in your state. And then they'll say looking for a lawyer, searching for a lawyer, and they'll give you a list of lawyers in your state and even in your area or zip code that practice that type of law. So good luck with that. Very well, we're almost done. I'd like to give the advisement again for legal purposes. The legal advice for yourself. For legal advice for yourself, consult with an attorney about the particular facts of your case. And our exchange during this social media broadcast does not create an attorney-client relationship. Anything said during our exchange will not be confidential and may be publicly disclosed, which is why we're now using only first names in order to protect your privacy as much as possible. This is kind of at the same time, I don't want the information public with your full name. Anyway, I am attorney Alma Rosa Nieto. I'll say this in Spanish. El jueves a las 7 de la noche, hora del oeste, y a las 10 de la noche, hora del este. El mismo segmento, pero en español 100%. I just said that on Thursdays, we do the same segment at 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. East Coast time. This Thursday in Spanish. So please spread the word. Thank you. And oh, a bit of news. We revamped my webpage, almarosanieto.com. brand new webpage. Still has some tweaks, but it's a brand new webpage that I'm really happy with. If you'd like to check it out, there are a lot of videos there with information that is all related to immigration. So please welcome to go peruse it, almarosanieto.com. I'll see you next week, next Tuesday in English and next Thursday in Spanish. Bye. Si no, él me dice, usted ya me levanta y me voy, Yudiel. Ok, ¿me van a preguntar algo o qué onda? ¿O es nada más free? Ad-lib? So basically the same thing I just did in English, but in Spanish? Okay, how long do I have? Two minutes max? Can you tell me like a minute and a half? And it won't sound? I mean, I won't hear you? Okay. Yeah, just say 1.5 and I'll know. Okay. Wait a second. I look at the camera? Okay. Recientemente se descubrió que ICE hizo un memorándum interno que se fugó. Lo hizo desde febrero del 2017. Sin embargo, se acaba de obtener una copia del mismo en el cual hay una contradicción. El nuevo presidente dijo que iba a haber prioridades de deportación y habla de gente muy mala, gente con órdenes de deportación previas, gente con crímenes graves, personas que son un daño a la seguridad nacional. Sin embargo, este memorándum, solo un mes después, habla de que toda persona que esté en Estados Unidos indocumentada es tiro de blanco para ICE. Si ICE llega tocando la puerta a un hogar buscando a una persona deportada y esa persona ya se mudó hace años, el nuevo inquilino abre la puerta, dice yo no tengo nada que temer, a mí no me ha encontrado nunca inmigración, abre la puerta, ICE ahora puede cuestionar a esa persona y detenerlo. Una madre soltera con 4 hijos nacidos en Estados Unidos también es tiro de blanco si ICE la cuestiona o la encuentra en alguna manera y se topa con ella. Así es que esto es noticias bastante alarmantes, sin embargo es importante saberlo, ¿no? Les digo no para alarmarlos y asustarlos, sino para que se movilicen. Si algunos de ustedes tienen alguna manera de emigrar, consultar cuanto antes con abogado, ya no hacer desidia, buscar opciones para que así usted se sienta un poco más tranquilo sabiendo que ya hizo algo para legalizar su estatus dentro de Estados Unidos bajo estas condiciones que son terribles y espero que no sean muy duraderas. Was the time okay? Yay! Besitos a los dos, vasos, bye. Igual. Gracias, Iván. Gracias, Judiel.